Makamba,
Yes.
the Honourable January Makamba.
Thank you.
I knew you were going to be good. How was your experience? How did you feel? I mean, you're so accomplished, you could handle that in your sleep, but how did you feel about the session?
It was very good. I thought there was energy in the audience. I thought that a lot of people wanted to continue to engage.
Well, I couldn't get you out of that.
Yes, always when you have, when you end the session and you have half of the room still have their hands up, that's a testament to the fact that there was hunger for continued conversation.
That's right, and I think, and you were saying that this is a conversation, not a campaign rally.
Absolutely.
And I think it really came out. I mean, you touched on so many things. Yeah. If I can go back to, you know, January, you're vying for the presidency. Can you just give us an idea of what the milestones are in 2015 for you as a candidate?
Yes, first, our party has yet to issue a program, a timetable for nomination process. But normally, it happens around May. So this time around, we have a constitutional referendum which may interfere, it's in April, may interfere with the nomination process. So we expect it to be end of May, early June. So when that timetable comes, we go through the entire process of party organs, assessing the names. So we have a party body that's called Central Committee, we have a National Executive Committee and the Congress Convention. So the entire process from picking out the forms, let's say if it's mid-May, up to getting a nominee, it's probably 2 weeks span, 3 weeks, sorry. So the key month will be the coming one in April and May. And as you know, when you win a CCM's nomination, more or less you're guaranteed. So the real election is this one.
So this is the big headline event that you're working towards.
Absolutely.
Right? January, you know, you came out with so many interesting points and a vision, a very 21st century vision, a plan for its implementation, quite a nuanced plan, especially when people were questioning you on it. You know, we are believers, but is it possible to, you know, is Tanzania like an oil tanker, like you described the CCM, that it turns slowly, or do you think you can make it more nimble?
It'll take a lot of effort. And the key thing about change is that you have to be able to identify the right moment to do it, to ignite it, and the right buttons to press. Sometimes people try to bring change too early, sometimes too late. We believe that this is the right moment in our country for us to be able to turn that corner from merely being a potential to really economic powerhouse, a country where everyone is proud to live in and everybody has an opportunity. The magnitude of challenge is, I'm under no illusion that it's huge. What needs to change is also huge. So you have to be strategic and very intelligent on what you do first. And normally you do things that eventually helps you to do other things. So I have an idea about what to do.
You know, listening and being here in Dar es Salaam, which is quite an urban setting, but of course the majority of Tanzania's people live in the countryside. Yeah. And this very much came out of some of the stuff I'd read that you'd written about the village, about your grandmother. Is there a big divide? I mean, you know, are you having to calibrate your appeal differently when you're in the city, or is it just one message, or how would you? Are the concerns of the person who's tilling the field different to the person in Dar es Salaam? Well,
there are things that cut across. For instance, corruption, yes, opportunity. Those are the major big picture challenges. This, we use the same approach, the same language. But obviously there are areas where they have particular challenges that you need to speak about. And mostly this has to do with services. That the profile of social services in the cities is better than in rural areas. Hospitals here are better equipped, are closer to where people live, transport easier, power is there, water is tapped. So you don't need to talk about those as much here. But when you go to an area where people have to go to a river, which is sometimes dry, to fetch water 2 kilometers from home, that's their big item. When you have the entire village not having a clinic, a dispensary, and women just give birth, at home, and when it's difficult, it's difficult. A child die, a woman die, that's the reality. And it's painful, so you need to speak of all those conditions. So the key thing is you don't change yourself, you calibrate your message to different audiences.
You can create the 900,000 jobs, or they can be created. Is the challenge a doable challenge?
Yes, it is. Building an inclusive economy where growth is shared is a very important component of even social stability. Dealing with inequality, not by taking away from people who've succeeded and giving it away to other people, but uplifting everyone. And there are known, proven interventions to be able to do that. We obviously have to deal with sectors, labor-intensive sectors that involve small people, agriculture, yes, manufacturing, we now have, and I mentioned in our talk today, about 900,000 young people between 15 and 24 that go into the job market every year. This is a huge number. Their skills profile is very low. About 90% of them do not have more than secondary education. So they bring in muscles to the labor market. So we have two major tasks there. You have to do things to absorb the muscles first. So low-skilled jobs needs to be created. So massive private investments in agriculture, in manufacturing, in small businesses, small and medium enterprises. It's important. On the other, you have to change the profile of those who come into the job market to make sure that in the coming few years, you don't just bring muscles into the job market, but knowledge, expertise, technical skills, innovation. And once you have those in the market, they're very good at sorting themselves out.
I had two people who said to me, ask January some personal questions. Yeah. I would like to ask you, what is your favorite book or author? Who would you put that down to? I read a lot. And, yes, I can see that.
And for me to ask me to pin down a favorite author is
a book that has made the massive impact. I saw you mentioned a book which I'd never read. It was about something, the exteriority.
That's a philosophy book.
You like philosophy?
Yeah. Yes. Emmanuel Levinas. So I love Emmanuel Levinas. Very abstract. But the key message, it's got totality and infinity.
Yes.
And essays on exteriority. This idea that if you go look at the mirror, what do you see?
Yes.
Well, you say you see yourself. But actually we are supposed to reframe to say that we see the other. Therefore our morality, our posture in relation with other people should change to that of seeing them in the mirror when we look at ourselves. And society will be better off if that's the frame, the other. and otherness. And thus there's within us, there's, you know, this, we don't exist if the other doesn't. So that's the abstract stuff that I thought was good. But I don't read so much fiction, but I enjoyed a book by Ben Okri. You know,
yes,
Ben Okri,
yes. Which one?
The Famished Wood.
Yes, I remember reading that.
The flowery, the poetry.
Magic realism.
Yes.
Very like South American writers like Marquez. It was quite interesting that connected.
Yes, yes. And this description of the spirits and, you know, the river flowing. I mean, that's that language transports you to a different universe. And it's quite actually relaxing.
Yes.
Reading it. Yes. So I read that too. But mostly it's books that are functional, economic development, policy. Yeah.
And what's driving, what's motivating you? I mean, you know, when I look through the career, fantastically successful, George Mason, Carter, I mean, you know, really blue chip career, you blue chip education, blue chip. What's driving? What's in your stomach, January? Is it because you believe you can deliver a better life for Tanzanians? What you know? What gets you up in the morning? You know, you're telling me you're not sleeping much, and
not for you know,
good reasons.
For good reasons.
Yes,
I've just my mind occupied with stuff. It's not that you know, well, when I was in school, when I was young, I had different worries that really drove me. And now with kids, I also have different worries, which their future and what kind of country that you know, they're going to live in, what kind of country that their kids are going to live in, and I see myself, you know, having a role in making sure that they live in a better country. So as a parent, your perspective also change about, and your motivation and what drives you also change. So it has been evolving. When you're young, you are 18, for the most part it's just personal ambition. You just want to do well. You want to do well in class, you want to be first.
I saw you were always first in class.
In some instances I wasn't, but I was very competitive.
Are you competitive now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can see that.
Oh, yeah. Quietly, I don't, you know, I have that drive in my stomach.
But you're like a cerebral competitor.
Yeah, I know how to do. So that's, but the key thing that really drives me is the knowledge that it is possible to do better.
Yes.
And this faith in human progress, that it's within our means, within our ability, within our hands to change the fortunes of so many.
Yes.
And we know how to do it. We have seen it happening in different places. The fact that it doesn't happen and the fact that it is possible, that also drives me.
I like that. Who are your political, you know, who do you look up to politically, contemporary or even in history? You mentioned Mwalimu Nyerere, quite a nuanced explanation you gave. Who's out there that you can turn to and think, you know, that's the sort of person I admire? I mean, did you meet President Obama? I think you were introduced. You've met all these leaders. What do you feel? I mean, how do you? I mean, I know it's a difficult question.
I read biographies quite a lot, because they say examples of great men create men of the same caliber. So examples of people who have done well, we have to, you know, if you take their example and act the way they acted, you may become as great as they are. So example of Mwalimu is very important, not just to talk about it, but to live it. And so for Tanzanians, he's a giant here. And you know, we look up to him because of a combination of attributes that he had. The intellectual heft, a thinker, philosopher, who was driven by a certain thought process. You know, whether or not you agree with it, but there is a founding thought, a grounding thought, a principal thought that drove his agenda, and also the you know, moral compass, the ethics.
That comes out very clearly with you, and I think that's a very strong. I mean, if you missed Mindspeak, January spoke about a time when he actually was sent by his mother to go and see somebody who'd done very well, and January worked out that he couldn't have possibly done that legally. And you made the point that you responded to your mother that, you know, is this an example to follow? And it isn't. So congratulations. And my sense is that has been in your mind throughout your life, and I can imagine you making the same decision every time. But let's go back to practicalities. You got opponents here who are throwing money around like confetti. You know, a lot of that political mobilization is a murky area. How are you bringing your principles to bear in this space, and is it leaving you at a disadvantage?
It's very tough, you know, because we don't have a tradition here of regulation of campaign financing. We had a law.
Is there any regulation?
No, there's a law actually, which was passed in 2008, but it doesn't have institutional support to be carried out. You know, nobody knows who is responsible for enforcement. So maybe that's something that we can sort out. But generally, here you can finance a candidate to the amount that you want. And as you know, these days, given the economic situation that we are in, given the role of media in influencing people's opinions, you know, the role of money has been extremely huge in shaping perception. So you may have a candidate who has a lot of challenges, but because he's capable of organizing a certain perception out there, you know, people behave as if those challenges don't exist. So, and also we're dealing with people who have been in the game for a long time, and therefore have created a network of patronage, and where people are paying back now. So we unfortunately do not have that luxury. We have supporters across the continent who, because make no mistake, you have to spend money on election. The issue is how you spend it.
Yes.
We don't spend buying voters. We spend just getting organizing ourselves. So it's been quite tough to organize resources. But the fact that we are standing today, we're being heard, we are making a little bit of turmoil, that speaks of the volume, speaks very greatly to this idea that there will reach a point where people will simply say, okay, look, thank you for your money, but I want to have a better country. And I hope that our party will behave the same.
I'm confident it will, January. I would like to thank you
thank
so
you very
much for really a wonderful Mindspeak. You know, I've been following you on Twitter for a long time, as I said in my introductory remarks. So I had a good idea of what I expected. And
thank you very much.
You've surpassed all those expectations.
Thank you very much. This was good. I had fun. So.
And we hope to come back and do the same thing in your State House one day.
Absolutely. Maybe that question that the first three things, but I should have said another Mindspeak.
Yes.
No, that's the third.
The third one, yes. No, because those were good points you were making. You made a gentle point, but then you made it quite a strong point, the second one. And I think, you know, what was interesting was listening to you is you pack a lot into what you say. And there was so much good stuff that I want to continue unpicking. And what I found also very fascinating was the thought process that you're a policy wonk, aren't you, January? Is that
that's
how I should describe you? I was thinking about it.
That's what I'm described, that technocratic policy person. That
but you need
politics
to know that, right?
Oh yeah, you need to know. I mean, as president, you need to be able to have the facilities to really process a lot of information and understand how things work. So you can't just be clueless and just get stuff, people getting stuff to you, and you need to be able to challenge the people who are advising you, who are working with you, and it requires, and particularly this time around, this generation. We need leaderships. The leadership is a bit technocratic, a little worldly, global understanding.
That's right.
So I think it's not. People sometimes throw it as an insult, but
I'm not at all. I think it's a compliment.
Yeah, I think it's good.
And I think.
And they normally say that we don't do well in politics. We just are good, but I think it is possible to do well in both.
Yeah, I think you are. Okay, last two questions since I've got them in my mind. What has been the toughest moment in your life, January? The toughest? Since day one. What would you say?
Oh, many moments. I'm trying to remember which one was the most. But when I went to live with my grandmother.
This is when you were in Lesotho?
I don't know, in the village? Maternal.
Yes.
In Makamba.
When she was making the lubis, was it?
Yes. So this was scarcity time in our country.
And you know what I think? The person who came to work in our house must have left Lesotho at that time.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It's extremely difficult. Where no soap, no sugar, no salt, no matchbox, no nothing. And toothbrush is a luxury. Why do you have toothbrush? No, sorry, toothpaste.
Yes.
Toothpaste is like, what is this? So we normally had this particular tree, which it has its natural medication.
Yes.
So we used to do that as a. Now, so that time where I was young, I had to walk to school, 3 hours a day, come back home, there's nothing happening there, no water, no nothing, and nothing in the house. For a young person.
So you've seen scarcity to that
degree. In a big way, So I would say that also was a very important time because it taught me a lot. It taught me patience, persistence, perseverance, patience. No. And eventually things turned out well. So I'm wearing a nice suit here, and people who sees you now say, "Oh, look at these elites." But I've lived in both extremes.
Yes.
I've lived in absolutely nothing, and so when I go to the villages, I see young people, kids.
I saw
8, 9, and I say, this is me. There's no shoes. And I understand. I can empathize. And I think for a political leader, the capacity for empathy
is key.
Is very important.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you have to have lived through that life for you to be able to get that, but it helps.
Yes.
For sure.
No, it makes you strong. And I think that was something that drives you, isn't it?
Of course, absolutely. To see different fortunes.
And lastly, obviously we're now in the run-up to really what you've been running for a long time. But what would you say has been the most happy moment that you've had in your life so far? Is it when your wife-to-be came round and you had the potted plant? I was really impressed with that.
You have to do what you have to do. Yeah, you have to do what you have to do. Yeah. You have to seem organized, No, many. I mean, when we had kids, you know, when I was our first child.
Holding the baby.
Yes, that was extremely emotional. And really a moment, you know, where I said, okay, this is it, I'm a different man now. And the joy of seeing, you know, them, I have two now, seeing them grow. And I don't want them to grow up, you know. I want them to continue.
Me too.
Yeah,
but it goes so fast.
Yeah.
One day you're holding them like this, next day you're sending them to university.
Yeah. So yeah, those was a very happy moment for me.
It was a real privilege to be
Thank you.
here. It was a real privilege to host you at Mindspeak.
Thank you very much.
We sincerely believe that we're going to know that you're going to be in the house this year.
Thank you.
And that Tanzania deserves the leadership that you're offering.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
Good.